In the Vegas Summer League, LeBron James, the 40-year-old, exercised a $52.6 million player option with the Lakers last month. He's entering a record 23rd NBA season, but quotes from Clutch Sports CEO Rich Paul the day Bron opted in sparked some intrigue about Bron's future in LA. Dave McMenamin is in Vegas with more.
The question on everybody's mind is, where will LeBron be playing next season? What caused the speculation was a statement by LeBron's agent, Clutch Sports CEO Rich Paul, given to ESPN's Shams Charania when James opted into the final year of his contract with the Lakers for $53 million last month, when Paul said LeBron intends to play on a championship contender for whatever time is left in his career. Now, I've checked in with both the Lakers and LeBron's camp on this one. For the Lakers, it's business as usual. They have motivation to compete at the highest level and maximize not just LeBron's timeline, but they want to compete now with Luka Doncic. Some have posited that the true cause of this situation was the Lakers not offering LeBron a contract beyond next season, but Rich Paul told me that they never asked for one. Paul also made it clear to me that LeBron has not asked for a trade, and Paul hasn't even discussed the possibility of wanting a trade in the future with the Lakers. Paul did tell me that 4 teams contacted him with interest in trading for LeBron, though. Now, I asked LeBron just before tip-off if he'd like to join the broadcast to discuss everything, and he told me, quote, "I ain't got nothing to talk about."
Hey, we got a lot to talk about with LeBron entering an unprecedented 23rd NBA season. And if last year showed us anything, it's that he's barely lost a step. The King passed Michael Jordan's 2002-03 season with the Wizards as the oldest player to lead his team in total points in the season. Bron topped the Lakers last year.
Lakers in 2020, making him the 4th player in NBA history to win a title with 3 different teams. All right, let's bring back John Gonzalez and Tim Doyle with an eye on the LA Lakers. And when it comes to LeBron James, Tim, how do you envision this final year? He's never played on the final year of his contract before. He's going to be doing it this year. How are you entering King James in LA this year?
I think he finishes the season on the Lakers. I know that there's a lot of speculation of other moves that could be made and the aprons that teams have been dealing with and trading this guy. I mean, recently we saw a trade where how many teams were involved? 8 different teams were involved in a trade. But I think he finishes this season with the Lakers, and the reason why is his son's on the team. By the way, raise your hand if you had over Bronny James 28 points last year. I gave that out on HQ, Tommy and John, okay? He finished with 62 points. But this is like classic business. Like, you get your son in, right? You teach him the ropes for a few years, and then you say, all right, buddy, like, go fly your own wings. So I think he sees through this entire season, and a credit to Bronny. Remember, he had that issue at USC where we're all concerned about him and his health. He has bounced back, and honestly, eyeball test, he's getting a lot better day by day. Is he deserving of an NBA spot? You know, I think that's obviously open to debate. But I saw him recently in a summer league game make a huge steal, a very athletic dunk. You know, he's lucky that his dad's one of the 3 greatest NBA players of all time. But that's life. You want to know something? I'm going to help out my kid when he comes to the right age and try to open doors for him. So I do believe, John, when it's all said and done, when this season is over, he's still on the Lakers.
Tim, I will also help out your kids when they're ready, so you just let me know about that. As for LeBron, yeah, I think he's factors in for now, right? When you have Luca and LeBron, you've got a chance, but the West is absolutely loaded, and I don't think they're as good as the defending champs, Oklahoma City. I don't think they're as good as the Rockets, who now have KD and added Dorian Finney-Smith, who, by the way, used to play for the Lakers, now plays in Houston. And I don't think they're as good as the Nuggets either, because the Nuggets have the best player in the world, Nikola Jokic, and they got better this offseason. So at some point, if you're LeBron, you're playing on that final year, as Tommy said, do you look around and go, man, like, this might not be my last year, but it could be. And if it isn't my last year, it's close to my last year, and I'm running out of chances to actually win another ring. And I know he was on his podcast with Steve Nash talking about how ring chasing and ring chasing culture is weird, and he doesn't like how people apply it to him. I don't buy any of that. I think he would love to win one more championship, and I don't know that it's going to be, well, I'm pretty sure it's not going to be in LA this season. So if it's not going to be there this season, maybe he thinks about, okay, where could it potentially be? There's been conversations about Cleveland. Cleveland, maybe the Knicks. The money makes it difficult because you got to match that salary. But I just wonder, I mean, like, unhappy LeBron, where he's kind of floating the idea of, am I going to be around already through his agent? Just like smoke and fire generally equate with him, and I think we're getting some of that right now.
Which I think is interesting, given what Rich Paul said recently. John, to your point, it's like, why disclose this stuff now if you're trying to sort of establish this line, perhaps, of demarcation about, hey, get us some help to win a title, yet everything that they plan to do probably revolves around Luka Doncic, which has the conversation of when, if not already, this is going to be Luka Doncic's team. And John, I'm going to give you first word because I wrote it as if it's already Luka's team. That Rob Pelinka is going to be making moves for Luka. They're not going to mortgage everything to win a title this year. But if it's not Luka's team now, John, when will it be this season?
Yeah, well, it already is. I mean, the second that they traded for him, he's 26 years old. LeBron James, the greatest player of his generation. Depending on your mileage on this thing, he's the greatest player of any generation. He's that good, but he's going to be 41 in December. Luka's 26, right? The second that they decided, LeBron James would have loved, Tommy and Tim, to have another extension on a contract, right? Another 1-and-1 where he knows he's playing on this year and he's got a player option for next year. The Lakers normally would have done something like that for LeBron because they like to reward their stars. Smartly, though, they looked at this and went, look, as much as we love LeBron and thank you for your service, we got to play this thing out over the long term, which is why they had LeBron opt into his player option and decided not to extend him, because now they know next offseason they're going to have a massive amount of cap space. And also, critically, if they really kind of like pump the brakes on this team building this year and they don't move any of their draft picks, they could have as many as 3 first-round picks to move at the draft next year. It would be next year's draft pick plus 2031 plus 2033. If you're looking at all that money plus those assets, now all of a sudden you could probably reboot this thing on the fly. And oh, by the way, you also have to pay Austin Reeves. So yeah, LeBron, it's been real, but it's Luka's team now.
You know, it's interesting how you took that question, because I don't disagree with you. You looked at it from a basketball standpoint. I looked at it from like a fan standpoint. Like, who's going to say, yeah, I'm going to go see the Lakers and Luka? No, like, you still go see the Lakers because LeBron's on the team. Like, he still has that draw, even though, you know, he's been doing it for so many years. I legit think it'd probably be like 90-10 as far as how many people think, you know, this is Luka's team. Just like from a marketing standpoint, from a ticket sales standpoint, you're talking X's and O's in basketball, John, and I believe you're right. When I saw the question, I just looked at it like, all right, I am going to go pay for tickets with my family. I'm going to go see the Lakers and LeBron. So I looked at this question differently. I believe that this is his last year there. So it will be Luka's team next year. Once LeBron exits, it will be Luka and the Lakers. But this upcoming season, it's still LeBron and the Lakers.
Tim, we saw this past season LA needed a big, and they weren't able to get that in enough time. They did get DeAndre Ayton. How should he help this team?
Well, I mean, you know, we're talking about a former #1 pick, obviously played in the NBA Finals with the Suns. I think that he's a very serviceable big. My biggest concern with the Lakers is not in the regular season. It's in the postseason. Can they really lock down defensively and get key defensive stops? And LeBron James at his age is not the same defender that he once was in his career. Luka Doncic, there's no D in Doncic, it's just Oncic with O. It's just all about offense. So when I see this team, I see a lot of great regular season wins, but like, can you get key defensive stops over the course of a 7-game series against a high-profile team like Houston and OKC? I have big-time doubts, but as far as their success in the regular season, I think they're going to be really good.
John, what do you think with J.J. Redick? How does he navigate this season, given the way last year ended somewhat combative at times, especially in the postseason?
Yeah, I mean, JJ, he's the head coach of the Lakers, right? So you're always under a certain amount of pressure. I did think that they overachieved on the whole last year, Tommy. I mean, ending up as the 3rd seed in a loaded Western Conference is pretty good when not a lot of people had that kind of expectation. Plus, you had that massive trade in the middle of the season where you're integrating one of the great players of all time with one of the great players of his current generation in Luka Doncic. So, there's a certain amount of responsibility and expectation that comes with that. But when I look at the Western Conference, we're thinking at a minimum 13 to 14 teams put Utah off to the side, but pretty much everybody else, whether it's realistic or not, in the Western Conference thinks that they can make the postseason next year. So the Lakers, I think, are in that like upper echelon, but they're not Oklahoma City. They're not the Rockets, and they're not the Nuggets. They're not in that lead pack. They're chasing leaders. Right now, the Tour de France is going on. I'm sure that Tim Doyle is a big bicycle race enthusiast, right? They're not in the leaders. They're in the peloton. They're in the pack chasing the leaders, and that's kind of hard to do. With Luka and LeBron, you would think that just as a default position, you'd be in that lead pack, but they're really not. So I think outside of just being the head coach of the Lakers, having Luka and LeBron, realistically, nobody expects this team to win a championship this season.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have my yellow bracelet. I did wear one, and then all of a sudden Lance Armstrong leaves his wife, and then it's like Lance Armstrong's the worst person of all time. So, yeah, but I didn't know. As far as JJ Redick, the guy did an awesome job last year, right? We didn't know what we were going to get. They hired the TV guy who was a journeyman in the NBA, had an outstanding career, and he was able to blend this talent. I think he's got an extremely high basketball IQ, but this is not necessarily the easiest hand to be dealt, right? You got one of the greatest players of all time. You have one of the great players of this generation. You're trying to blend it all in. If I had to grade out his last season, I wouldn't give him an A, but I'd give him an A- or a B+, Tommy.
You can still get a Livestrong bracelet for about $7 on Amazon. I just looked it up right now. Before I let you guys go, the consensus or the feeling I get from this conversation and for the Lakers is good but not great, John. So where do they go? Do they make the playoffs, and if so, how far?
But obviously, he's dealing with the Achilles injury, but his days in Milwaukee are done. But now that he's freed up, is this a potential landing spot for Dame?
Eventually, maybe. Sam and I have talked about this previously. He's been linked to Miami forever. He was linked to Boston after he blew out his Achilles, and the Bucks decided to waive and stretch him. Somebody has to explain to me why this makes sense for either side, for Dame Lillard to sign now rather than waiting a year after he's recovered and then looking at the NBA landscape and finding the best spot for him a year from now. Look, I understand the argument of, oh, if you sign with a team, you'll have access to their facility, plus you'll have some more guaranteed money. But Dame Lillard doesn't need more money. Dame Lillard can rehab on his own and has plenty of access to good medical care. If I'm Dame Lillard, I'm just waiting. You know, it sounds nice to go and rehab in South Beach for all the reasons that Sam just outlined there. It's a really great spot, right? But so much can change in a year. If you're Dame and you're looking at this team right now, as we discussed with Norm Powell, Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo, I don't see them going anywhere. Maybe something changes in a year. Maybe they'll be better positioned and then you sign with them. Or maybe you look around and go, man, this window's closing. I'm 36 coming off an Achilles. If I have any shot of winning a championship or doing anything in the postseason and making a deep run, I should wait and find out what that spot is. I don't get him signing now, and I don't get why Miami would want to lock him down now.
Yeah, to John's point, there might be teams out there you could maybe justify signing with early if you're joining a championship contender under the logic that you could maybe come off their bench in March, April, play a smaller role this postseason. Okay, sure, if you're going to Denver, if you're going to Minnesota, if you're going to a team that actually has immediate championship ambitions, sure, maybe you could justify signing right now. But if you're going to a place like Miami, why do this now? They're a 37-win team. I don't know what he really has to gain by doing this. They're going to be out there in a year, right? The Heat are never not going to want Damian Lillard on their team. The talent to money ratio there is just too appealing to deny. He's probably going to sign for the minimum or something close to it on his next deal. If that's going to be the case, I just don't know what the reason is for signing with a team that only won 37 games last year, right? You're doing that right away. You're doing that to join a contender. If you want to go to Miami that badly, make them spend the year proving to you that they're actually capable of contending.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, guys, I want to talk about a little bit of a...
I'm joined by CBS Sports NBA analysts John Gonzalez and Sam Quinn. You guys, let's start with Bradley Beal. Clippers, Lakers, Bucks, Timberwolves, all rumored to be interested in Beal. But John, what do you see as the best fit?
Yeah, all of a sudden, Bradley Beal, whose contract is one of the most onerous in the NBA, people are like, okay, well, if I don't have to pay that salary, maybe he could be useful. There's going to be two teams here that I'm identifying, both for Bradley Beal and Chris Paul. You could even make them interchangeable, but for the purposes of simplicity here, we'll say Bradley Beal to the Clippers makes some sense. They just swapped out Norm Powell for John and Collins. They have a loaded front court rotation in Ivica Zubac and Brook Lopez and now John Collins and Nico Batum, but they could use some backcourt help behind James Harden. They saved some money on that Norm Powell deal, around $5.3 million. So once Beal gets bought out, if you can get him for that price, you slot him into the Clippers. The Clippers are a very deep team. They were really good defensively last year. You wouldn't need Bradley Beal to be a monster offensively, or even in terms of how many minutes he'd suck up. You're looking at him being your 7th, 8th, 9th guy. Bradley Beal could do that. Send him to the Clippers.
Yeah, John, you read my mind, right? Bradley Beal was a $20 million player last year, making $50 million. That's totally untenable. But if you're getting him for the minimum or a part of the mid-level, now you're talking about some really good value. I don't think the Clippers would have given away Norm Powell if they didn't feel pretty good about their chances of getting Bradley Beal, right? The Clipper offense, when James Harden went to the bench last year, was a disaster. Whether it was Kevin Porter Jr., Bogdan Bogdanovic, they just couldn't generate bench offense without Harden. You bring in Beal, and you can solve that problem right away. They've really improved the front court, like you said, John Collins, Brook Lopez. If you bring in Bradley Beal, like, look, health is always going to be a question there, right? We never know with Kawhi Leonard, James Harden's getting older, but the talent on that roster, you're talking about a potential contender in the West.
All right, I love the consensus here. All right, Bradley Beal to the Clippers, it's a good fit. But as John mentioned, you know, Bradley Beal, Chris Paul, kind of interchangeable in these conversations. CP3 has said that he has, quote, at most a year left in the NBA. Now, the 12-time All-Star has yet to hoist the Larry O'Brien trophy. So, Sam, where do you see the 40-year-old point guard playing his 21st and possibly final NBA season?
Yeah, I think it'll be Phoenix, right? Chris Paul has had the chance to ring chase in the past, right? Last year, I'm sure there would have been contenders interested at the minimum. Instead, he signs in San Antonio because it gives him a chance to start. He doesn't want to just be on a team for the sake of being on a team. He wants to actually play, and I think Phoenix is a really good situation for him. They have all of these shooting guards. They have these younger centers. They need somebody to actually set them up and create these shots. He knows Phoenix. He's obviously been there. He made it to the finals with Devin Booker. Is he going to win that elusive championship with the Suns this year? Probably not, right? But could he go in there, help them be a competitive team, maybe make the play-in, make the playoffs, help develop those younger guys they have, right? Mark Williams, Kamal Malawach would surely benefit from his presence in pick and roll. I think that's a good fit if Chris Paul's priority here is actually like playing real minutes and not just sitting on the bench and trying to collect a ring that way.
Yeah, if he was going to chase a ring, I think that he would have wanted to have a reunion in LA with the Clippers rather than the Phoenix Suns, because as Sam mentioned, they've got a zillion shooting guards. I'm not sure that that's the best fit for him in his final season, but fine. I thought, hey, if you're looking around, and this isn't going to be a team either that has a chance to win a championship this year, but if you're just looking about minutes and trying to help a team that could obviously use a point guard, the Bucks would be a good landing spot for them, because I was looking at their roster today, and so they stretched out Dame Lillard, who obviously has the Achilles injury, over the next 5 years. I thought that was a terrible idea just so they could sign Miles Turner and just cling to whatever hope that they have. And I think it's dwindling that Giannis will just stick around in perpetuity and end his career there. I think it's a fool's errand. However, they need a starting point guard. Right now, as I was looking at this, who's dribbling the basketball in Milwaukee? Are we talking about Kevin Porter Jr. here or Vasily Micic? Like, Chris Paul, for the fact that he's 40 years old, is still going to be infinitely better as an option next to Giannis Antetokounmpo than any of those guys. Now, I don't know that I necessarily want that for poor Chris Paul, because you're going to be in basketball purgatory in Milwaukee, but that's a potential landing spot as well if he doesn't go to Phoenix.
Hey, it's a great basketball fit. He has said he wants to stay close to LA, close to home, close to his family, but we'll see how it all shakes out. Another guy, though, who mentioned he wants to stay on the West Coast, Russell Westbrook. He's reportedly eager to find a team closer to home in free agency, but you've got to think it's unlikely he'll end up in LA. So, John, do you see Russ ending up on the West Coast, or where is the best fit for him in free agency?
Yeah, great question. The music is starting to come to an end here, and I don't know that there's a lot of chairs left for Russell Westbrook to sit in. I mean, the best spot for him was Denver. He opted out of his contract because whatever deal he gets next would be more on the vet minimum that he would have gotten paid this year. I get why he did it, but all of a sudden you look around, okay, so the Kings were mentioned, but they went out and got Dennis Schroeder. The Knicks were mentioned. My note here is why, all caps, question mark, question mark, question mark. The Pacers obviously could use a point guard now that Tyrese Halliburton is going to be around, but does he really fit into the organizational ethos in Indiana where it's really do more with less? I don't think that he does. I mentioned the Bucks previously. They could use somebody to dribble the ball. I just think that would be a terrible fit for the Bucks, even though they need warm bodies. I think CP would be a better option. I just keep coming back to, it's a bummer that he didn't figure out a way to stay with the Denver Nuggets, because he had a pretty good season last year, Madeline. I mean, Joker can paper over a lot of concerns for players and make players look better, right? I mean, Russell Westbrook, previous stops in LA didn't go well. All of a sudden you get paired with the best player, apologies to SGA, in the world in Joker, and you look pretty good. I don't know. The answer is I don't know where he's going to wash up. I don't like any of these options for him, and I think he's running out of them pretty fast here.
Yeah, I guess I'll say Sacramento just because there's been the reported interest. They obviously want to get some playmaking at guard. You know, they got Dennis Schroeder, not a great passer. Russ could really help them on that front at least, but I guess they'd probably have to trade somebody just to fit him in, right? Like, are they trading Devin Carter, Malik Monk, somebody to bring in Jonathan Kuminga at forward so you can open up some minutes in the backcourt? I think it's notable that after the pretty strong season that he had in Denver, they haven't exactly rushed to bring him back, right? How many contenders does this guy need to go into, get excited about, and then kind of wash out from before all the rest of the NBA teams look around and say, like, maybe this just isn't somebody that we want to have around? So I do sort of wonder if we might be nearing the point where maybe it makes sense for him to go international, right? Maybe there's a EuroLeague team that would be really excited about his athleticism, could use him a little bit more than the backup roles that at best are probably available to him in the NBA. I just don't think after washing out with the Lakers and the Clippers and the Nuggets that there's just going to be that much interest, right? Like, the rest of the league was watching as all of this happened.
Fair, and we'll see. I mean, I can't imagine a world in which Russ is going overseas, but maybe. I mean, anything is possible. At this time of year, too, in free agency, we're all playing detective, right? We're all trying to understand what the next move is going to be. And I got to point out, Ben Simmons posted an Instagram story riding a jet ski in Miami over the weekend. So let's talk some Ben Simmons. While some people on the internet might see that as foreshadowing for a potential free agency destination, it also might just be a nice time of year to ride a jet ski in Miami. So, John, we all know the potential is there with Simmons, but what do you see as the best fit for the former number one overall pick, who I know you're well familiar with as a Sixers fan?
Yeah, Madeline, I'm laughing here because I love this time of year. It's Ben Simmons puts stuff on Instagram season, and it's usually Ben Simmons in an empty gym shooting threes and him going, this is the year that I'm going to become a three-point shooter. Spoiler alert, it's never that year. All right, so where should Ben Simmons go? I thought, much like Russell Westbrook in Denver, that the best spot for him was the LA Clippers. Doesn't look like that's going to happen. He actually fit in pretty well there, right? What do you need from him? Like 15 to 20 minutes maximum, play some defense, basically be knockoff Draymond, where he can do a lot of things on the basketball court. He's athletic. He can run the floor. He rebounds really well. He passes really well. He can defend. If he had just embraced that role earlier in his career rather than being the guy who's defiantly, no, I'm a point guard and I'm a star in this league, it could have been a better situation for Ben Simmons. So there's been two different rumors, both of which I find absolutely hilarious. One would be back to the Philadelphia 76ers. I can't imagine the reception that he would get from the Philadelphia media and the fans. And the other one, almost as hilarious, but not quite equally so, would be the New York Knicks, the media glare there with those fans. I think maybe the Knicks and their fans would at least try to embrace him a little bit, but ultimately I think that they would land on the same position as Philadelphia fans and media, which is that Ben Simmons is not really a good fit and wants to be bigger and better than he actually is with his talent. So I guess send him to the New York Knicks just for my personal entertainment.
Yeah, let's get out of these big markets, John. Can I interest you in the Indiana Pacers? They're not going to have Tyrese Halliburton next year. What does Ben Simmons need to succeed? He needs a lot of shooting around him, and ideally you want him to play in a fast-paced system where his half-court deficiencies aren't going to be as glaring. That sounds like a lot like the Pacers to me. If Benedict Mathurin is going to be starting in Halliburton's place, that's a shoot-first player. You want to introduce a little bit more playmaking, around him. If he's going to be playing more without Halliburton, Ben Simmons could bring that, right? We think he can still probably defend in a lower minutes role. His health is going to be an issue, but if you're paying him the minimum, like, why not? I don't know what else the Pacers are doing with this season, so give it a shot. I think that's an interesting fit that I'd like to see.
We're going to be continuing to monitor all the Instagram stories as free agency rolls on. John Gonzalez, Sam Quinn, thanks so much for the insight. Now here's a look at the current odds